14 years ago, Maya Patel walked into Harper & Lyne's studio clutching a worn leather sketchbook and a heart full of dreams. The office wasn't fancy, just a small space above a coffee shop with sunlight spilling through half. Broken blinds, but to her, it felt like the start of everything. Mr. Harper, the founder, was a quiet man with kind eyes and ink always smudged on his fingers. He reviewed her portfolio in silence, turning each page carefully. When he finally looked up, he smiled. "You've got an eye for stories," he said. "Design isn't about colors or fonts, it's about people. You understand that. Welcome aboard, Maya." That simple moment lit a spark that never dimmed. Maya started as an intern, making coffee runs and labeling design samples, but she soaked up every lesson she could. Mr. Harper never treated her like just another assistant. He encouraged her to share ideas, to experiment, to fail boldly. "The only mistake," he'd say, "is not caring." Years rolled by. The studio grew from a handful of dreamers into a respected boutique design firm. Maya rose quietly through the ranks: junior designer, then senior, then creative lead. Clients asked for her by name. She became the studio's heart. The one who stayed late when deadlines loomed, who remembered birthdays, who mentored the interns just as Mr. Harper once had. There were rough patches, of course, lean months when projects dried up, nights when she questioned whether she was good enough, but Harper always believed in her. He'd drop by her desk, lean on the edge, and say, "You're the reason we're still standing, you know." She would laugh it off, but deep down, it meant everything. Harper & Lyne's wasn't just a workplace, it was a family. Every wall was filled with framed projects and inside jokes. Every Friday ended with pizza and laughter. Maya poured herself into that world, often sacrificing weekends and relationships for it, not because she had to, but because she loved it. When Mr. Harper called a staff meeting one rainy afternoon, she noticed his hands trembling. He announced his decision to retire. The room went silent. "I've sold the company," he said softly, "to someone who can take it further. His name is Lucas Gray." Maya's stomach tightened. Harper's eyes met hers, warm but tired. "He's got a strong business background. I trust he'll keep what we built alive." She smiled for his sake, though unease prickled beneath her ribs. She spent the next few weeks helping with the transition, organizing files, creating detailed guides, determined to make things smooth. After all, Harper had trusted her, and loyalty was second nature to Maya. On his last day, he gave her a small card. Inside were 6 words, handwritten in fading ink: "Stay honest with your art always." She framed it above her desk. When Lucas Gray arrived, sharp suit and colder smile, she told herself not to judge too quickly. Maybe he'd be different once he settled in. Maybe loyalty still meant something. She didn't know yet that everything she'd built, every late night, every drop of devotion, was about to be tested in ways she could never imagine. Lucas Gray moved through the office like a gust of cold air, swift, polished, and impossible to ignore. Within weeks of taking over, he replaced the warm, messy heart of Harper and Lyne's with precision and numbers. The coffee machine was swapped for a productivity zone. Framed sketches were taken down, replaced by corporate slogans. He was a businessman, not a creator, and Maya, for all her professionalism, felt the soul of the studio quietly slipping away. At first, she tried to adapt. She offered ideas in meetings, suggested ways to modernize without losing the company's warmth. Lucas listened politely, but never really heard her. Emotional connection doesn't scale. He told her once, waving a hand dismissively, "We're focusing on measurable results now." Maya began to dread coming to work, but she stayed loyal. She thought of Mr. Harper's trust, of the people who still looked to her for guidance. Maybe if she worked harder, things would stabilize. Maybe Lucas just needed time to see her worth. That illusion shattered one Tuesday morning. "Maya, can we talk?" Lucas asked, his voice smooth, his smile rehearsed. She followed him into his office, sleek and soulless, all glass and chrome. The faint hum of the city filled the silence. He gestured for her to sit. "I've been reviewing our financials," he began, clicking open a spreadsheet on his tablet. "You've been with the company for quite a while now, 14 years, correct?" She nodded, unsure where this was going. "That's impressive," he said lightly. "Your experience is, well, it's rare these days, but with the new structure, we're making some adjustments." He folded his hands, his tone businesslike. "I'm offering you the same position, but at a 40% pay reduction." The words didn't register at first. She blinked, waiting for him to clarify. I think there's been a mistake," she said finally. "I've given over a decade of my life to this place. Why would my salary be cut so drastically?" Lucas smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "It's not personal. You're valuable, but also expensive. I can hire 2 junior designers for the same cost. It's about efficiency." Her stomach dropped. "Efficiency," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're calling 14 years of loyalty inefficient." He leaned back in his chair, unbothered. "You have to understand, it's just business. If you care about the company, you'll stay and help us transition." The sentence burned. "If you care about the company," as if her worth depended on how quietly she could accept being devalued. For a long moment Maya said nothing. Then she stood, her palms trembling, her chest tight. "I've given everything to this place. I believed in it. But I won't let you put a price tag on my dignity." Lucas tilted his head, indifferent. "So that's a no. That's a resignation," she said, her voice steady now. 2 weeks' notice. As she turned to leave, he called after her, "You're making a mistake." Maya paused at the door, looking back just once. "Maybe," she said, "but at least it'll be my mistake." She walked out, heels echoing against the floor, heart pounding with a strange mix of heartbreak and relief. The elevator doors closed behind her, sealing 14 years of devotion inside a building that no longer felt like home. The morning after her resignation, Maya woke to silence. No buzzing phone, no urgent emails, no half-drunk coffee cups left on her desk from late-night deadlines. For the first time in 14 years, her day didn't belong to Harper and lines. It belonged to her, and the emptiness of that truth was deafening. At first, she told herself it was a break, a chance to breathe, but the quiet quickly became heavy. The rhythm of her life had revolved around work for so long that without it, she felt lost. Her savings weren't endless, and the fear of unemployment crept into every sleepless night. Her friends tried to reassure her. "You'll land somewhere better," they said. "Someone with your experience won't stay jobless for long." But the job listings she scrolled through didn't excite her. They felt hollow, transactional, and deep down, she knew she didn't want another boss who saw her as a number. Still, she couldn't shake the doubt. What if Lucas had been right? What if she was replaceable? One gray afternoon, as she was cleaning her apartment, she found her old sketchbook, the one from her first day at Harper and Lines. The pages were yellowed, the pencil lines faint, but something stirred inside her. She sat by the window, flipped open to a blank page, and started to draw. Hours passed without her noticing. The world faded away, replaced by the familiar hum of creativity she'd almost forgotten. For the first time in months, she felt peace. That night, she made a decision. She wasn't going to beg for another job. She was going to create one. She registered a small business, Root and Rise Designs. The name came to her in a dream. Roots for where she'd come from, Rise for where she was going. Her kitchen table became her office. Her savings became her seed money. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and deeply personal. At first, clients were scarce. She built a website, posted her work online, reached out to old contacts, but the silence was discouraging. Still, she refused to give up. Each day, she designed something new: logos, brand concepts, mock-ups for imaginary clients. She kept building her portfolio and her confidence. Then, one morning, an email arrived. "Hi Maya, I heard you're freelancing now. I'd love to work with you again. Your designs always had heart." It was from an old client from Harper and Lines. She said she missed the personal touch that had disappeared after Lucas took over. That one project led to another and another. Word spread. Soon, Maya was booking work faster than she could handle. She hired an assistant, then two. They worked from her living room at first, sharing laughter and long nights fueled by creativity and coffee. When she finally rented a small downtown studio, a sunlit space filled with plants, sketches, and the smell of hope, she hung Mr. Harper's note above her desk. "Stay honest with your art, always." Root and Rise began winning awards. Magazines featured her story, the designer who built beauty from betrayal. She never sought revenge. She just rebuilt herself, piece by piece, into something stronger. And as she locked up her studio one evening, watching the city lights flicker through the window, she realized something profound. Leaving Harper and Lines hadn't been the end of her story. It had been the beginning. 2 years later, Maya's name had become a quiet legend in the design world. Root and Rise Designs was no longer a small studio. It was a thriving brand built on authenticity and heart. Her team had grown, her clients were loyal, and her calendar was booked months in advance. Success hadn't hardened her, it had healed her. Sometimes she still thought of Harper and Lines, not with anger, but with nostalgia. She remembered the laughter, the sketches pinned on the walls, the smell of fresh ink and coffee. That world was gone, but the lessons remained. Then, one rainy afternoon, an unexpected email landed in her inbox. From Lucas Gray, subject, collaboration opportunity. For a moment, she just stared at it, lips curving into a disbelieving smile. Out of curiosity, she opened it. "Hi Maya, I hope you're doing well. I've been following Root and Rise's growth, and I must say, it's impressive. Harper and Lines could benefit from your expertise. Would you be open to discussing a partnership or possible collaboration?" She almost laughed. The audacity of it was surreal. But more than that, she felt calm. The wound he'd left years ago had already scarred over. Now it was just a faint reminder of how far she'd come. She agreed to meet him the following week out of courtesy and maybe a little curiosity. When she walked back into the office she'd once called home, it felt smaller somehow. The walls were bare, the energy sterile. Employees moved like ghosts, eyes down, the hum of creativity long gone. Lucas appeared at the end of the hallway, still sharply dressed but missing that confident gleam in his eyes. "Maya," he said, spreading his arms, "you look fantastic. It's been too long. 2 years," she replied evenly. Almost to the day, he motioned her into his office, the same one where he'd offered her that infamous pay cut. Only now the blinds were drawn, and the once busy phone sat silent. He started with small talk, but Maya didn't indulge him. Finally, he leaned forward, his voice tight. "Business has been challenging. We lost a few big accounts, and I thought maybe a partnership could be mutually beneficial. Your company has the creative spark we've been missing." She met his gaze steadily. "You mean the spark you dismissed as inefficient?" His jaw twitched, but he recovered quickly. "I might have misjudged things then. You've clearly built something remarkable." She smiled softly, not cruelly. "You know, Lucas, you once told me I was too expensive to keep. Turns out I was just too valuable to lose." For a moment, the silence between them was thick. He opened his mouth to reply, but she was already standing. "I appreciate the offer," she said kindly, "but I'm afraid I'm too busy helping companies that value their people. I wish you luck." As she walked toward the door, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. An email notification confirming Root and Rise had just landed a major client that Harper and Lines once boasted about. The irony made her smile. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean, like renewal. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, Mr. Harper, for believing in her when no one else did." Then she turned the corner, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. There was no bitterness left, only peace. Sometimes revenge isn't loud or cruel. It's quiet success, steady and sure. Maya hadn't just risen. She'd bloomed. And those who once tried to bury her were left to wonder how she grew so beautifully from the soil of their own regret.